Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. This is Andrew with Roo-Akh Worship. I'm going to take a couple minutes and just talk through what I do when facilitating an altar moment. So let's dive in. So let's talk about those altar time moments. These are those moments at the end of service as the pastor's wrapping up and the keys player is probably going to come up and play something under him while he's finishing his message, and the band might come up, we might be going into a song, or we might just play out instrumentally. But what do we do in those moments? One of the big things I do is I communicate ahead of time. So I'm going to be going to the speaker, the pastor, whoever's going to be speaking in the service, and I'm going to ask them, what do you want at the end of service? Do you want me to come up? If the answer is yes, which 9 times out of 10, that answer is going to be yes. Okay, what do you want? Do you want me to play under you? Do you want pads? Do you want piano? Believe it or not, all speakers are different. And I've been a part of services where the speakers are like, just give me a basic pad. Don't play any fluff. And then I've been a part of services where I'm playing a pad and the pastor kind of looks back at me and he's like, you can play a little more. So then I start adding in some piano. So I've learned to just communicate ahead of time in those pre-service meetings. Hey, what are you looking for at the end? The other thing that I'm going to do is, the big one is, when do you want me to come out? You know, there's nothing more awkward than coming out early and the speaker kind of looking back at you and you thought it was the third point, but it was actually the third point of point 2. And then he still has to get through point 3, A, B, and C. And then you're stuck out there and it's kind of like you're twiddling your thumbs, or you're just you're going to be playing under him, playing some music under him for 20 plus minutes. So I've learned to communicate well ahead of time, what do you want? What are you looking for? And then I also communicate, do you want a song? Do you just want it to be instrumental? If it's a song, do you want full band? Do you want an acoustic? And just trying to get all those details so that way they don't have to worry about it. And then we as the band and the team can just facilitate those moments. So let's talk about, I get out to the keys, what do we do now? So one of the first things I do is I always double check my settings. I'm going to be, moving my knobs, or if I'm using the piano, I'm going to make sure my settings are where they need to be. I'm going to make sure my volumes are down so that way when I hit the key, there's not something, that comes through the system really loud. And I'm going to make sure that my settings are where I want them to be. There's nothing more awkward than getting up there and I think I'm going to play something and there's a fader up and all of a sudden, the keyboard comes in and it's really loud and obnoxious. So I quadruple and triple check all that stuff. A lot of times what I'll do is at the end of the worship set, in the first part of the service, as we're transitioning out and video announcements are happening, or we're transitioning into the message, I'll take those extra 10 seconds and I'll actually get my controller or my keyboard where I want it to be for when I come up. So that way I don't have to do too much messing with it. When I come up at the end, I can just double check everything, make sure it's where it needs to be, hit it, and then slowly, fade in. So let's talk about when I'm about to fade in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to communicate with the front of house engineer, and whether it's through a talkback like this or they have headphones that they can hear, I'm going to let them know, hey, I'm about to fade in. Or if they don't have a talkback, I'm going to communicate with them ahead of time as well. And I'm going to let them know, hey, I'm going to fade in to my full volume and I'm going to let you control the volume back there. So that way I'm not at halfway, they're needing more. And then when the song comes in, I push it to full and then they're having to dial back. I'm going to let them know, hey, I'm going to give you my full signal right off the bat, and I'm going to let you fade it in and blend it how you need. The other thing that I'm going to do when I'm fading in is I'm actually going to keep one ear out. And the reason that I do that is that way I can hear in my ear, what the sounds that are coming in, but then I can also hear how it's coming in the house. And then I can actually hear if I do need to pull back or if I'm playing too much, because I just like to hear how it's feeling in the room. And that way I'm not playing too much. So I'll leave one ear out for a decent amount of it. And then when I am getting ready to fade in, what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to start with real simple. I'm going to start with the drone pad. So it'll sound something like this. And I slowly fade in the drone. So it'll fade in and I'll kind of let it sit there for, a little bit, let the sound engineer get it coming through the house. And then I'm going to hit, my pad. And then I'm going to fade in slowly right above the drone. And then I'm actually going to start with just pads to, for a little bit. I'm going to go flow around a little bit. And then when I'm ready for my piano, I'm actually going to have my tone knob all the way down so it's not super bright. And then when I fade my keys in, I'm not going to start, with a real big, like a big sound like that. I'm actually going to start, just with some high-end stuff. Just lightly add that texture in. Just real simple. Might throw like just little, I call them the twinklies, little twinklies in there. But I'm going to keep the progression real simple to start. I usually just go 1 and 4 and 1 and 4 to start. So that's usually how I fit in. I keep it simple. Drone pad, then I add my pads, and then if the pastor wants piano, I'll add my piano in, but I'm going to keep the tone knob all the way down. I also have that Noir felt. I might use that and kind of add that in underneath. Just to add a little bit of, that extra texture under what's going on. So the other thing that I do when facilitating an altar moment is I'm always listening. I'm not just going to play whatever I want. Kind of like we add dynamics in a worship set and we add, chord progressions to different, choruses and verses. I'm going to listen to what the pastor's talking about. And there's nothing more awkward than he's in this like happy moment. Look at what God's done. And we're playing, we're playing all the minor chords. And he's just in this happy moment. So I try and listen to what the pastor's communicating. And if he's kind of, lively, I'm going to probably play, like a basic progression, like 1 and 4. And, I might throw the 6 in there, but I usually save those minor chords for when he's really, driving it home and he's in those moments or opening up the altar or giving a call for salvation. Those are the moments where I'm going, 1 4 1 4, and then when he gets to those moments, I'll probably throw the 6 in there, and I'll just kind of hang there a little bit. And I usually do like a walk down, go to the 5, and then go to the 3. That's usually my progression for stuff like that, and just kind of go back to that 6. So I'm always listening to the pastor. I'm trying to follow him as best as possible. I want to facilitate those moments with him. Continuing on with different progressions, I know I've talked about a couple of those already. I want to dive into just a couple more progressions that I like to use when facilitating moments at the end of service. So the basic one, again, is the 1 4 1 4. Those, serious moments, I like to throw in the 6, walk it down 5, 3, 4. Another one that I use is go to the 4, go to the 3, and just go back and forth, just the 4, and then back to the 3. So that's another one that I use. Another one that I love to use in an altar moment that just really flows really well is I like to go 2 3 4 and repeat that for a while, and then as the pastor's ending a moment, I'll throw the 5 in there and then do the 2 3 4 5 progression. So it'll sound a little bit like this. So just the 2 3 4 to start. So I'll do that for a while, and then eventually I'll throw in the 5. So 2. And then I'll land on the 5. So the 5 just kind of adds that just next level to the progression. I just like to build with the pastor. And then the last thing I do is if we're going to be going into a song, the pastor wants the band to come up, or whether it's, just keys and some vocals. One, I'm going to know what key we're in and what song we're doing. And then I'm going to basically, at the end of those moments and the pastor's, finally getting to the end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get us into the song progression. So at that point, I will fire, we'll kind of be in there. I'll land on the 1 or the 4, and then I'll fire in the click, and I'll kind of count us into that progression. 1 2 3 4. And we'll just kind of start playing under the pastor with this progression. And then that way we're ready to go back into the song when the pastor's done. We can just kind of jump right in, and the band's already there ready to go, and we don't have to be like, okay, now the song's going to start. Okay, we got to get into the song. We're already in the song. So I like to do that, and it works really well. If you can already be in a progression and just seamlessly flow into the song, it just makes that transition, that much smoother and less distracting with what the Lord's doing in the room at the end of service. Those are just a couple of the tricks that I use. I'm going to try and find some videos of examples of me playing under some pastors at the end of service. So if I was able to find some, they will come on in a second. If not, this is the end of the video, and thank you so much for tuning in.
Come into your presence to hear your word and make my prayers and my confession of faith to you. May I deeply appreciate the great love of your Son who went to Calvary to pay for my many sins with his own blood. And it goes on. Guys, I'm saying sometimes you need a tool like this, and you need to sit down, and you need to have someone guide you through. Whatever tool you read, I'm just saying do it with intentionality and do it with passion, saying, God, I'm organizing my day around you, and I'm going to live from the secret place with you as the direction of my life. That's how I'm going to do life from here on out.
We love the altar calls because we get to hear the word and then receive an impartation. But I also love the priestly anointing, that where God says, I'm going to stand behind you and I'm going to shine my face onto the people and I'm going to put my name upon them. So receive the name of the Lord into your identity this morning, Providence. May the Lord bless you. Divine abundance, the nature of God.
So there was just a couple examples of me kind of facilitating some moments at the end of service. I hope that was helpful for you, and we're excited to just continue to put out some more content in the coming weeks and months. So subscribe to our page and just be on the lookout for some new videos coming out. Thanks so much for listening.